Good morning and welcome to LLT 121, Classical Mythology, in which we are today taking up the careers of a number of lesser heroes. Heroes who, for whatever reason, could not rise up to the level of Heracles or his washed-out counterpart from Athens, Theseus. The first hero we're going to take up today is Jason, the local hero of a city named Iolcus. It's interesting, nobody in this room is currently named Jason, but we all know somebody. The kid who lives across the street from me is named Jason. It's a name that somebody actually has. What I don't understand for the life of me is why it's so popular. The Jason story starts out in the city of Iolcus, where a king gets married. Now, how does this go? Okay, I remember. King Perseus, and don't worry, he's not going to be on the test, gets married to this white woman named Nephele. Nephele, in ancient Greek, means cloud. This young woman's name is Cloud. More about which in a second. They have two kids, Phrixus and Helle, a boy named Phrixus and a girl named Helle. The next thing Perseus does is he mingles it. Well, Nephele has the two kids, and she decides to go back to her previous career, which was being a cloud. Yes, that's right. She goes back to being a cloud. Perseus gets married to Princess Ino of Thebes. By now, you should know what the one primary distinguishing characteristic in Greek mythology is about the fine city of Thebes. The gods hate it. Nothing good ever happens at Thebes. Well, here's what happens. Ino says there is a plot. I'm sorry, it says there is a plague. There's a plague coming to Thebes, to Iolcus. And since they don't have any nutrition bureau, any farm bureau to help them out, they send off the Delphic oracle. Ino tampers with the Delphic oracle. She fixes it so the Delphic oracle says you have to kill Phrixus and Helle. So the poor king decides, all right, I am going to kill Phrixus and Helle, when, much to everybody's surprise, this golden ram comes swooping down out of the sky, boom, picks up Phrixus and Helle, and carries them away off to the east. Of course, here's the Rorschach map of ancient Greece. They don't make it all the way out there. What happens is that Helle loses grip of the ram, falls into the ocean, and dies right around the city of Byzantium. And forever after, the strait was called the Hellespont. Cute. People falling into the ocean all week. However, Phrixus makes it all the way out to the end of the world. This land actually is in the Black Sea called Colchis. And there in Colchis, the ram sets Phrixus down. King Aeetes, king of Colchis, sacrifices the ram to Apollo, good career move, and hangs the fleece of the ram up on a tree in honor of Apollo. Aeetes is the son of no less a person than Helios, the sun god. And so he can get away with killing golden rams and stuff like that. Aeetes and his wife, Mrs. A, have a lovely daughter named Medea. We'll meet her later. I pause for a question. Meanwhile, back in the city of Iolcus, there is a question about the inheritance of the throne. Who should become the king? Should it be the older brother, Aeson, who is, after all, the legitimate king? He is the son of the king and the king's wife. Or should it be Peleus, who is the son of the king's wife, and Poseidon? Poseidon is a very lusty, zesty god, Mike. He gets around. He's also a very popular second choice if you want to give yourself divine parentage. No, I'm not going to shoot for Zeus, but Poseidon, my real dad's Poseidon. Yeah, that's it, Poseidon. In the best of all possible worlds, Aeson gets to be king. But in order to make this myth work better, Peleus becomes the king of Iolcus, forcing Aeson and his little baby boy Jason to go into exile. We pause here. Jason, Jason, learns how to be a hero while living in exile. He studies with the centaur Chiron, the nice centaur. He learns to hunt and he learns to do math and stuff like that. It's really nice. Then one day, Jason's about 17 or 18 perhaps, he decides that he really wants to be king of Iolcus. And he knows just how he's going to go about it, too. He is going to come into the city of Iolcus, be admitted to the palace, and ask his uncle Peleus, the king, if he can be king now, because it's really fair that he be the king. Scott, got a question about that. Does that sound like a sane way to operate? No, it's idiotic as a matter of fact, but he's not very mature. This is what he plans to do.
He's just naive at this point.
Yes. You have to remember that, children growing up today have a lot more pressures on them today than they did when they were growing up in ancient Greece. So he was probably naive as the day is long. At any rate, Jason is walking to the city of Iolcus. And by a stream, he sees a little old lady. She's fallen down. And she can't get up. Jason, being the nice, pleasant, well-bred, well-raised young man that he is, kindly helps the little old lady up. Isn't that great? And in the process, he steps in some mud, which sucks the sandal off of his right foot, either his right foot or his left foot. Any of you ever do that? Stick your foot in mud and have it pull your shoe off? If not, try it sometime. I'm not making this up. Tiny did young Jason realize, but the old woman was Hera, queen of the gods. And I know that our primary familiarity with Hera comes with her taking very nasty revenge on mortal women who, through no fault of their own, have engaged in a relationship of some sort with Zeus. Hera can't get even with Zeus, so she makes these poor women miserable, and we think to ourselves, that Hera, what a jerk. That Hera, what a cold, conniving you-know-what. But it's true. You could have no worse enemy than Hera. But as Jason's going to find out, you can have no better friend than Hera also. By his kind and unselfish act in helping the little old lady who couldn't get up, Jason has got Hera on his side. Meanwhile, Back at Iolcus, King Peleus receives an oracle. This one is unambiguous. Beware of the man with one sandal. Notice how artfully I worked it into the narrative there. So you can guess what happens. Young, nice, polite Jason shows up, knocks on the door of the palace at Iolcus, asks to be taken into King Peleus. Uncle King Peleus, could I be the king now? King Peleus looks down at Jason's feet and sees that one of his sandals is missing. Doing. Peleus thinks about it for a second and says, sure, you can be the king on one condition. I want you to go out to the end of the world and bring me back the golden fleece. Jason is young, he's alone in the world, nobody knows him. The odds, let's see, what exactly is the other side of the world? Let's say that I asked Elizabeth to go to the Irkutsk in the Soviet Union and steal me some plutonium, please, Elizabeth. You know, you have no way of getting to Russia, you don't speak Russian, and these are just some of the problems, right? What do you estimate your chances at, Elizabeth, just to pick on you a little bit? Slim to none. Or, the other way of looking at it is, of course she's going to go get the plutonium and come back with it, because this is a legend about how great and heroic she is. The art of the story lies in getting from point A to point B. Hera serves as Jason's recruit. Oh, he says, yeah, sure, Uncle King Peleus, I'll do it. Hera serves as his recruiting agent for this new quest. She goes around and recruits all sorts of heroes for this, a whole boatload of heroes. This fellow by the name of Argo, or Argus, makes a magic boat. Really great boat with lots of oars, and it has sails and everything. They call it the Argo. Here we have the legend of Jason and the Argonauts. Or, one time I rented the Fine movie, and the clerk, who is not perhaps one of the great minds of the 20th century, called it Jason and the Octagons. The store has since closed. You may be familiar with a genre of movie in which there's really no discernible plot, no really great stars, or maybe a B-movie star perhaps, like the immortal Dolph Lundgren. Dolph Lundgren came to fame as this burly Swedish guy who was married for a brief time to Sylvester Stallone's ex-wife. So you can understand Dolph's credentials. The problem is, you guys have got about $1 million, and that's about it, to finance this big, huge blockbuster movie, a starring vehicle for the immortal Dolph. How many of you have never heard of Dolph Lundgren before? How many of you led a reasonably happy life, Kristen, despite never having heard of him? Okay. What do? You load the movie up with all sorts of heroes who are B-movie heroes, who are perhaps not as familiar to the crowd, who will work cheap and be happy to work cheap. Do you follow the analogy I'm drawing here, Carrie? Who's a B-movie hero who might be willing to work cheap, along with Dolph Lundgren in Jason and the Argonauts? Regina? Kato Kalin will be happy to work cheap. Well, he's dead. Other than that,
Well, back when this was made, he wasn't.
Okay. Lyle Alzado. Lou Ferrigno. Huh? Who? Oh, okay. Jackie Chan his agent said he would call you back, but you're still waiting. And it gives rise to a movie which we've all seen before too, the buddy movie. The Dirty Dozen, The Magnificent Seven. What other buddy movies, ensemble movies have you ever seen? The Brady Bunch doesn't count. You know, there's a really serious, tough guy, and then there's a wild and crazy Joker kind of guy. It's like any war movie you've ever seen. Hulk Hogan, Mr. T would be willing to work cheap. And you have to have a guy who's good at music. And then you find out that Dolph Lundgren, the star of your movie, the star of your buddy movie, the star of your low-budget, low-quality movie, has talked Arnold Schwarzenegger into appearing. How long does Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mike, appear in this movie? For about 30 seconds. And then what do you do with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Kill him. Why? Why do you kill him? You're right. Okay, because he'll cost too much, and moreover, yeah, he's going to show up Dolph Lundgren. This is a Dolph Lundgren movie, darn it. So you keep him in there long enough, as long as you can afford him, which is probably about 30 seconds. You keep Arnold in there, and he says, "Make my day, I'm going to fuck you up." And then he dies horribly. But, for better or worse, you can now say, Dolph Lundgren, big letters, Dolph Lundgren, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jason and the Argonauts. And if, while you're watching the movie, you know, Regina's sitting there with her, you know, tongue hanging down the floor, and you like Arnie?
Well, sure.
Sure, okay, he'll do. She'll say, hey, wait a minute, that's it? But you've already paid your $6.75 to see the movie, which is all I care about. To heck with art. Hera rounds up for Jason a crew of all sorts of heroic type people. Orpheus plays music. Okay, the Winget Brothers, Calais and Zetes, sons of the north wind. They have wings on their back. They're really cool guys. They're recruited for the war effort. Castor and Pollux, the divine sons of Zeus and a swan. No, Zeus was the swan. The woman was not a swan. I always wondered about that. They show up, and also the fathers of various Trojan War heroes, like Peleus, who is a B-movie hero, who went on to be the father of Achilles. And so on and so forth. And in a cameo appearance, Heracles. In a cameo appearance, Heracles. How long, Mike, did you say we keep Heracles in this myth? 30 seconds. Before he starts showing up Jason, right? I'm going to tell you about 4 stops. Okay. First of all, there's and then there's that, and then there's the Phineas Island and Symplegades. Okay, very dynamic. Oh heck, I can wing this. The island of Lemnos is inhabited by women. Just women. All of the men have been driven away. They are women living without men, and they are lonely. Our heroic heroes come stepping off the gangplank, make the women happy. I'm being facetious. This is part of the heroic ethos, if you will. Love them, leave them, get out. Jason and his Argonauts mingle in love with the various women on the island of Lemnos. That's basically thrown in there to handle point number 6 on the Hierometer, love interest. Next stop, island of Chios. At this point, Hercules is rowing in such a burly fashion, he is, after all, Hercules, that he snaps an oar. And they have to pull ashore on the island of Chios, C-I-O-S, in order to find Hercules a new oar. While Hercules is looking for a sufficiently studly tree to provide him with an oar, he sends his close personal associate, Hylas, a young lad named Hylas, who is a good friend of Hercules. You mean Hercules? Yes. Hercules has an occasional boyfriend from time to time, too. But that's all right. The Greeks were very tolerant of bisexuality. Well, here's what happens. Hylas is a really nice-looking young lad. He goes to fetch some water. He goes to a pool to fetch some water, and while he's dipping in there to fetch the water, he is taken away. He is kidnapped by water nymphs. What a horrible thing to have happen. Kidnapped by water nymphs. Hercules is distraught. He's sad. He's really seriously bummed. And he doesn't have an oar, if you'll recall. So he asks to be left alone on the island of Chios to look for his close young associate, Hylas. 30 seconds, Mike. That's it. That's the end of Hercules in this legend. Stop number 3 is Phineus Island. The island inhabited by this blind king by the name of Phineus, who is a prophet. King Phineus has a problem. This is what King Phineus would look like today. He has Harpies. What are Harpies?
Aren't they the half human, half bird, or whatever?
Yes. As I read somewhere, they had they looked like women, only worse. That's not exactly right. They had the heads of women. Actually, this is kind of a cute harpy. And they have wings like a bird. And what is their MO, their modus operandi, do you know? They swoop down on your picnic table and they eat as much as they can, and what they do not eat, they befoul poopily. Okay? They dung on it. They fecatize it. I like that. Okay? And this has been going on for years. Well, Jason sends the Winget Brothers, Calais and Zetes, to chase the Harpies away, and they do. And Phineus is so pleased that he prophesies, yeah, you're going to get there. Beware of the clashing rocks. That's stop number 4. The clashing rocks are 2 rocks that go. Jason sails straight through them. I mean, because really, if it's going to be any kind of heroic legend at all, you've got to have a difficult entry into the magic Never Never Land where you go meet interesting people and kill them. You don't, for example, just like stride in through the door and say, hi, here, I'm home. They make it through the clashing rocks, and they make it to the city of Colchis, where King Aeetes reigns. Regina, your question.
This sounds like a bunch of Heracles Bible.
Of course it does. Have you ever watched a sitcom? A brand new, innovative sitcom on television, and 3 minutes into the thing, you just, I've seen this before. I know these characters.
Well, are those the same birds?
Probably. No, they're not the Stymphalian birds. Although we could probably use the Stymphalian birds because this is a pretty low-rent movie. You make a good point, Regina, that the plots, you know, the monsters and that sort of thing are pretty much recycled from one to another.
Side story for the side lady.
Except for when you've got like a B-movie hero like Jason, it's his big deal. Okay? If you're looking, for example, at the career of a U.S. senator or a state governor or something like that who has worked his or her way up through elected political offices, being elected alderman or dog catcher, you know, looks like it's pretty small potatoes. But if you've only wanted to be an alderman or the dog catcher and you get elected, you know, it's a pretty big deal. Okay, fine. Garrett.
Was the Clashing Rocks, that was number 4.
Yeah.
What was Phineas' son again?
Harpies. He had harpies.
Okay.
Okay. When Jason gets and his manly men walk off the SS Argo to get the Golden Fleece, Jason, being the polite young man that he is, introduces himself to King Aietes and says, "King Aietes, your kingliness, could I please have the Golden Fleece?" And Aietes says, "Sure." There's something in Jason's personality, he's such a polite young man, that brings this out in other people. All you have to do is, 1, yoke these 2 brass-footed, fire-breathing bulls. And there they are off in the distance, pawing the ground and snorting fire. Then I would like you to sow this here field here, plant and sow this field with dragon's teeth. Here, have some dragon's teeth. Thirdly, I would like you to kill all the men who are going to pop up out of the ground once you have sown the dragon's teeth. Then when you've done all that, Jason, yes, you can have the Golden Fleece with my best wishes. His chances are still not very good. Until, and again, Regina, you can yodel if you've heard this plot development before. The king's young woman daughter, Medea, sees studly young Jason walking down the gangplank and says, "Woohoo, I gotta help this guy." Where have we heard this before, Carrie? Theseus, right? Ariadne takes a liking to him. And if we're to believe Ovid in his Metamorphoses, Medea even makes a little speech to herself and says, "Oh yes, I know the best thing to do, and I approve of it, but my heart says, take the worst course." And so she does. She loves the big galoot. And it so happens that she's a witch. And she's smart. That's right. Back in ancient Greece, any woman who was smart was that automatically a witch. The name Medea could be interpreted to mean thinking person, in parentheses, female. And she is nobody to mess around with. Here's what happens. She rubs this magic goo on him, which makes him impervious to fire. She tells him some magic chants, you know, to put dragons to sleep and stuff like that. I don't mean to bother about the details, but with Medea's help, Jason yokes the bulls. Jason sows the field with dragon's teeth. And then when the little guys with swords and shields come out, Jason takes his humongo rock and throws it amongst them. They all get mad and accuse each other of having thrown the rock, and they kill each other. Not bad. Jason says, "King Aietes, could I please have the fleece now?" He points to the fleece. It's hanging on a tree. It's got a dragon guarding it. "Yeah, go get it." But armed with his magic spells and his magic ointment from Medea, he goes and says, "Okay, takes it down, and he and his men all get back onto the Argo. Medea goes, what about me? What about me? Okay, you too, Medea, hop aboard. Although Regina will probably tell you, as Regina, because she's written this one, that he's going to wind up demonstrating towards Medea the same lack of commitment that Theseus displayed towards Ariadne, because that's the way heroic males behave. Sad but true. But this is the amount of devotion that that Medea shows to him. The SS Argo is pulling away from the city of Colchis, and Aeetes is kind of mad because he really didn't mean to let Jason have the golden fleece. So they're chasing. We have a boat chase scene. And Medea, question? Medea gets this great idea for throwing him off track. She happens to have on board her little brother Perseus. And what she does is she kills him and chops him up into little bits and tosses bits and pieces of him off this way and that way. So while the Argo is making straight for Colchis, the other boat has to like sail around and pick up the pieces of the late Perseus to put together, hopefully, enough of him to bury. This is what Medea is willing to do for her husband. We go on. They return to the city of Iolcus. Farrellyn, your question. They return to the city of Iolcus, where Jason comes up, knocks on the door of the royal palace, asks for King Peleus, and says, "Here it is, Uncle King Peleus. Now can I be the king?" No. Jason has no idea what to do next. He's not tremendously bright. But fortunately, it's like me. I'm not tremendously bright either, but I'm married to somebody who is. Medea has a plan. She is, after all, a sorceress, a conjurerette. And what she does is she puts this boiling cauldron of water in front of King Peleus and his daughters, heats it up, puts in a special mix of 12 special herbs and spices, tosses it in there, and then puts this horny old ram. I can't draw rams. Takes this old ram and just tosses it into the cauldron. Leaves them in there for about 3 minutes, and out comes a little lamb. Bah, bah, bah. Whoa, that's cool. You mean you pop in the old thing and it comes out fresh and new and young? That's right, King Peleus. Would you like to hop in, King Peleus? King Peleus hops in, and what does he get? Boiled. He gets boiled. He's dead. Jason and Medea incur miasma. Wouldn't leave home without it. They go to the award-winning city of Corinth to be purified. Jason is purified of his miasma by King Creon. But for better or worse, they don't, for whatever reason, ever go back to Iolcus. Jason and Medea wind up living in Corinth. They have a couple of kids whose names may as well be Jason Jr. and Jason III. They're a couple of boys. One day, King Creon summons Jason to the palace. Jason, Mrs. Creon and I have been trying for years to have a son to be king, and we could only have our daughter Creusa. It's sad. We can't let a girl be king. At this point, let me mention that Creusa looks suspiciously like, I don't know, who should she look like? Winona Ryder, Cindy Crawford, Cameron Diaz. I don't know who. You don't care. Okay, she looks like Winona Ryder. What I'd like you to do, Jason, is marry her, and then you could be the king. There's a problem. Jason's already married, but maybe he's not a fanatic about it. Besides, Medusa, yeah, right. Medea is not as young as she used to be. She probably follows him and nags him because he doesn't like to watch Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman on Saturday nights or something. And Jason gets a clue. He thinks, yeah, this sounds like a good idea. I get to marry Winona Ryder and I get to be the king. Only one problem, Mark. Yeah, his wife might not be so happy about it. This is the plot of Euripides' award-winning play, The Medea. It begins with this scene. This notion that Jason has just found out that he can marry the princess of Corinth, but he has to figure out a way of making it sound right to Medea. He comes up to Medea and says, well, I've got a little proposition for you, Medea. You've been a really good wife for me. Our kids are really great. And what I'd like to do is divorce you and marry the princess so our two boys can be princes. And I can be the king. And, you'll have the satisfaction of knowing that our boys are going to be kings. This does not sound like a really winning proposition, does it? Remember that Medea means thinking person, female, in ancient Greek. And that's why we get all the more frightened when Medea says, okay. Medea goes into her hope chest and said, would you please give this garment, this little robe to wear to your new wife? I saved it in my hope chest all these years. I brought it from my homeland that I'm never going to see again, and I gave up and murdered my little brother for you. You know that a guy's got to be pretty dumb if he's been married maybe 20 years and he can't fall for a guilt trip, right? Well, this one's an idiot. This guy's an idiot. Because here's what he does. He takes the garment, and he's walking away, from Medea. Jeez, I didn't think it was going to be that easy. And he sidles off, right? Next thing we know, we go back. We don't see the wedding. We see Medea kind of standing out on her front porch. The door is shut. The kids are nowhere to be seen. A messenger comes roaring in from the wedding. Ooh boy, Jason's mad. Jason's coming. Jason's mad. That princess put on the robe that Medea had sent along. She immediately started to burn. And the king of Corinth, Creon, saw his daughter burning, so he tried to, throw himself on her to try to stamp out the flames. He's gone too. How ghoulish you all are. And Jason's coming, and he's mad. So Jason comes roaring up on his chariot. Medea, you blah, 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 blah. You killed Creon. You killed Creusa. You messed up my wedding. You messed up our plans. I'm taking the boys, and I'm getting out of here. Where are the boys? Medea says, the boys are in the house. You can go in and get them. Jason goes into the house, screams, and comes screaming out, groaning out, screaming because Medea has killed them. Jason just kind of goes berserk because, killing him would have been too easy and too quick. He wouldn't suffer enough if she killed him. but she's killed the two children, which means he's never going to reproduce. Because think about it for a second. The two kids he already has are dead, and what female in her right mind is going to want anything to do with Jason after this? And to those of you who say, yeah, that's really horrible to kill your two kids, I agree. Very grateful that my parents never killed me even once. Remember that Medea is the granddaughter of the sun god, so he sends a chariot down to pick her up. She's got connections. And cart her off to Athens. Isn't that neat? Where she becomes the wife of King Aegeus and the stepmother of guess who? Theseus. And remember, we can't hardly have a myth without Theseus. Jason's end comes in a very subtly satisfying way. Jason spends the rest of his days just hanging around by his dry docked ship, the SS Argo, and reminiscing about the way things used to be. As many old duffers do. If you've ever talked to somebody who's really, really, really old like me, I do. It's terrible. I have freshman honor students, and I tell them about what it was like when I was in high school. They can't identify with it. They just sit there and listen to me going, boy, is he old. Jason just sits around under the Argo and talks about and thinks about all of his great expeditions and stuff like that. One day a rotting timber falls off and conks him on the head, and he dies. That's his encounter with death. He dies. That's the end of Jason. You still have a few minutes, so I propose to take this opportunity to launch you rapidly into the career of Perseus. Perseus, P-E-R-S-E-U-S, whose name I will now write on the board, is not mentioned in your study guide. That's because the idiot who typed up the study guide didn't put him in there. The idiot who typed the study guide was me. So, I apologize. For what it's worth, he's a very satisfactory hero. He has his own movie, perhaps the most successful of all Greek hero movies, is that epic movie Clash of the Titans, which I have watched so many times I can't even bear to think about it now. It begins oh, that's right, it's not on here because I didn't type it on there. With this old king named Acrisius. Acrisius and his wife, Mrs. Acrisius, have one child, a daughter named Danae. Danae, that umlaut, those two dots over the E, do not mean that she is a heavy metal band. They mean that it's not Danae, but Danae. Although Acrisius would look good as a heavy metal band. Danae, very lovely young lady, is destined to bear a son who will kill his grandfather. This kind of complicates Acrisius' plans to marry his daughter off. Instead of marrying his daughter off, he hides her in a forest, in a hollow tree. I'm kidding, in a hollow chamber with a good solid roof and windows and all of that, so no guy can marry her or have his way with her, thereby begetting a child who's going to grow up and kill him. You following that? Well, of course, Danae is so beautiful that the cosmic swinger himself, the father of gods and men, takes a liking to her, and being Zeus, descends to her in the form of a shower of gold. And please put it that way, a shower of gold. He breaks through the window as a shower of gold, and pretty soon Danae is pregnant. No, with a cute little baby, Mark. Oh, look at the little guy. He looks kind of ugly. This is taking place with state tax dollars, so I don't want to offend anybody's feelings. Cute little baby. Who's gonna grow up and kill you, Ray? What do you do with him? Oh, I don't. You are the wrong person to ask.
Well, I tried to say.
I know. You take Danae and you take little baby Perseus, you put him in a box. Beautiful, big, huge wooden box. Nail it shut and throw it into the ocean. That way, you can be sure you really kill them because nobody could survive that, right? But you weren't there when they died, so you didn't actually kill them? Okay. Look, this is a common trick in Greek mythology. Like when Jocasta and Laius produced Oedipus, the kid who was going to grow up to kill his dad and marry his mom. I mean, if they were going to kill him, if they decided to kill him, they should have just killed him right then and there. Killed him good and dead. Handing him off to the shepherd to go expose on the mountain isn't going to do him any good. As you can guess, mother and son are tossed in to the box. And Zeus takes care of the box. The box washes up on the shore of an uncharted desert isle. It's not really uncharted. It's the island of Seriphos. The island of Seriphos, where a fisherman by the name of Polydectes finds, no, that's the king's name. The fisherman's name is Dictys, which means fishnet in ancient Greek. The fisherman finds the box, he opens it up. My God, there's a woman in here and a little baby. I'm going to bring it to my brother, King Polydectes. King Polydectes goes, whoa, a gorgeous-looking young woman and a little baby. She seems kind of attached to the baby, so I won't kill him. But I am interested in Danae. And for years, King Polydectes has Danae, the lovely young woman, and Perseus, the little baby boy on his island. She won't marry him. She doesn't want anything to do with him. She really has had a pretty rough life as it is. She wants to be left alone. Young Perseus grows up on this island too. No father figure. When he asks, Mom, who's my dad? What does Mom tell him, Heather? Zeus, right? Great, yeah, I have a whole bunch of friends whose parents are Zeus. Yeah, you expect me to go tell people that my dad is Zeus, right? Of course we know his dad is Zeus. One day when Perseus, about 15 or 16, Polydectes finally hits on a scheme to get Perseus out of town so that he can, marry or do something with Danae. He decides to have a party for all the young men on the island. The price of admission is a horse. A horse is very expensive to this day. A horse, to an ancient Greek kid, is the equivalent of a BMW. Okay, a brand new Beamer. And not those entry-level Beamers either. Four-door leather interior Beamers. That's the price of admission to this dance. Perseus was one of the kids, maybe you were one of these kids growing up too, who didn't go to the dance. They never went to the dances. They stood around outside the door and smoked cigarettes and drank Mad Dog and snickered at the people who were they don't want to go to that dance anyway. A horse. The price of admission is a horse. I could just as well go back and bring the head of Medusa. The door opens up. King Polydectes pokes his head in. I heard that, Perseus. I challenge you. Why don't you go bring back the head of Medusa? Perseus goes, glurp. Okay. And what do we estimate Perseus' chance of bringing back the head of that horrible monster with the snaky hair whose head turns people to stone? What are his chances of coming back in one piece with that, Mitch?
Excellent. He's the hero.
Okay, so you're going to look at it from that thing. Of course he's going to do it. He has done it every semester since I started teaching this class, as a matter of fact. Huh? Never is, Mark. I've tried. But by the same token, he's about 15 years old. He is supposed to go to Baghdad and, armed with his bare hands, beat the tar out of Saddam Hussein and bring back his mustache. Well, you get the picture. Stay tuned for our next exciting episode of The Adventures of Perseus. You've been a good class. Well, I'll catch you later.